If I may quote authors Bornstein and Lamb, every normally developing child acquires language. But how do children acquire language? Well, it's by interacting with their environment. In fact, it is a necessity that children interact with their environment in order to acquire language. Very early on in the late prenatal period, babies are able to take in auditory information. This information comes in the form of linguistic patterns and words. In fact, auditory language abilities are the first to develop, and this lays the foundation for expressive language. Receptive language is present well before a child is able to comprehend what specific words mean or how to say them. Prosody refers to the pitch, loudness, tempo, and rhythm of speech. Prosody is known as the binding factor of speech systems. Immediately after birth, infants cannot hear soft sounds as well as adults can. Infants are also less sensitive to pitch than adults are. Pitch is the perception of the frequency of sound, but by age 2, infants have considerably improved their ability to distinguish sound. We now know that language learning depends on the acquisition of abilities across 6 dimensions. No aspect of language develops independently from the other. Each dimension is interrelated. These dimensions are audition, articulation, words, grammar, communication, and literacy. Auditory development involves knowledge of how to differentiate the rudimentary sounds of a language. Auditory development involves knowledge of how to differentiate the rudimentary sounds of language. These sounds are then utilized to transform speech into words. Infants have developmental limitations for producing speech. Articulatory development involves coordination of the vocal tract, mastering control of the larynx, glottis, hard and soft palate, the jaw, the lips, the mouth, and tongue to produce sound. Breathing must also be in sync with the vocal cords in order to produce enough air for speech. Additionally, the ability to produce speech involves physiological transformations in the speech mechanisms. As babies get older, development of neurological pathways in the brain also influence the ability to produce speech. Lexical development is the third dimension of language development. This involves recognizing words, selecting the proper meaning for words. Grammar involves taking the acquired collection of words and arranging them into meaningful statements. Pragmatics is the acquisition of being able to communicate in conversation. The last dimension of language is literacy. Toddlers begin to develop literacy-related phonological awareness. This is evidenced by their ability to connect sounds to their print environment. This involves having literate control of language to use printed material and formal spoken dialogue. Stated earlier, when babies are born, they can already respond to the rhythm of language. They can recognize stress, peace, and the rise and fall of pitch. Infants produce reflexive vocalization in the form of crying, coughing, burping, and so on. But between the age of 6 and 8 weeks, they begin to make cooing sounds. Between the age of 6 to 8 weeks, babies begin to make cooing sounds. Cooing is extended vowel sounds, and this stage is important because cooing helps infants learn to manipulate their tongue and make sounds. Between 4 and 6 months, babies begin to babble. Babbling is the production of consonant vowel sounds in varying cadence. Babbling is evidence that they are learning language. By 8 months, infants can recognize words but are still not certain of what they mean. The child's first words can be viewed as rudimentary imitations of adult forms of speech that have gone through a series of simplifications and transformations. The emergence of the first word is based on the emergence of the first word is based on 3 earlier developments. The first is the infant's growing ability to record the sounds of words. The second is the development of the ability to control word production, which occurs in the stages of babbling. The third is the general growth of the symbiotic function, as is the journey of infants learning language is quite fascinating indeed.